They always say the truth can only stay hidden for so long. And in the world of Travis Hunter, that moment has just arrived. For months, fans and media outlets have been buzzing with questions about his so-called mystery girl. Who is she really? Why has she stayed silent for so long? And most importantly, what is she finally ready to reveal? Today, the silence is over. The woman at the center of endless speculation has stepped forward and broken her silence in a way nobody expected. From secret interactions behind the scenes to shocking revelations that have left even Travis's closest supporters speechless. What you're about to hear could change everything you thought you knew. Now, before we dive in, let's be clear. This isn't just gossip. This is straight from the source, and it exposes details that have never been made public before. And while many doubted if she'd ever speak, her words are already causing a storm across social media. The question now isn't just about what she said, but how Travis Hunter himself will respond. Stay locked in, because we're breaking down every angle of this story, what was said, why it matters, and what this means for Travis's future both on and off the field. This is the side of the story that was never supposed to come out. Until now. So buckle up, because by the end of this video, you'll see Travis Hunter's world in a whole new light. They say silence can sometimes be louder than words. And when it comes to Travis Hunter, that silence has kept fans, reporters, and social media buzzing for months. One question has been swirling around him ever since a certain figure started appearing quietly in the background of his life. Who exactly is the mystery girl, and why hasn't she spoken a single word? Until now. It all began as whispers, a few blurry pictures surfacing online, some cryptic posts that people read way too much into. Soon enough, everyone was convinced that Travis was hiding someone important. Theories flooded TikTok, Twitter threads stretched on for miles, and YouTube channels scrambled to connect the dots. Still, through all the noise, she remained silent. No interviews, no clarifications, no desperate attempt at clout. Just complete, almost eerie silence. And that silence only made her more fascinating. Travis Hunter's journey adds even more weight to the mystery. From the moment he became one of the most electrifying prospects in college football, every part of his life has been under a microscope. His game-changing plays earned him recognition beyond the field, and soon he was more than just an athlete. He was a cultural figure, a rising star whose story resonated with fans across the country. With that fame came attention, and with attention came the never-ending spotlight. Reporters wanted details about his training and career, but fans wanted to know more personal things: what he did off the field, how he spent his time, and most of all, who he was sharing that time with. That's when the mystery girl first entered the picture. A fan-shot video during an off-season event showed Travis talking animatedly to someone just out of frame. A couple of frames later, a woman's silhouette appeared, just enough for the internet to latch on. Within hours, people were zooming in on blurry screenshots, speculating, and spinning theories. Suddenly, she wasn't just a person, she was a mystery. And the internet thrives on mysteries. As days turned into weeks, more sightings came. A background appearance in a social media post, a reflection caught in a live stream, tiny glimpses that the online community grabbed and stretched into wild narratives. Who was she? A longtime friend? A girlfriend? A casual connection? Was she being hidden on purpose? Or was she just avoiding the spotlight? The more questions piled up, the more intriguing her silence became. Now imagine being in her shoes. Every move analyzed, every rumor multiplied, your identity debated by strangers who don't even know you. And through it all, you've said nothing. For months she lived with that constant attention, never correcting the assumptions, never stepping into the chaos. That silence created pressure, and pressure like that can only build for so long before it explodes. And that explosion finally came. In a move nobody expected, the mystery girl decided to speak out. This wasn't a leak. It wasn't an anonymous tip or some vague social media shade. It was her, in her own words, sharing her truth for the very first time. The timing shocked fans, and the content of her message left them stunned. She described what it felt like living as a shadow in Travis's world, watching as people built entire stories around her without even knowing who she really was. She opened up about the pressure of being connected to someone in the spotlight, the weight of being labeled without a chance to defend herself. She admitted that at times, she felt invisible. Not because she wasn't there, but because people only saw her as an extension of Travis. What hit hardest was her revelation that her silence hadn't been completely her choice. She hinted at pressures, expectations, and even advice from people around her to stay quiet. That one admission flipped the entire narrative. Suddenly, it wasn't just about a private person choosing privacy. It suggested that there were forces at play, perhaps even connected to Travis himself, that preferred her silence. Her honesty gave fans a glimpse into a world they had only speculated about. She explained that her relationship with Travis wasn't about fame, clout, or chasing headlines. Instead, she described private moments of support, trust, and conversations that the public would never see. She painted a picture of a bond more personal than the internet's wildest theories. At the same time, she admitted to feeling trapped, her own identity lost under the label of mystery girl. Once her words reached the public, social media exploded. Some fans praised her for finally speaking up, calling her brave for sharing her side of the story. Others were skeptical, questioning her timing and motives. Was this really her truth, or was it part of a bigger play? Regardless of the debate, one thing became clear: nobody was ignoring her anymore. For the first time, she wasn't just a shadow in someone else's life, she had a voice. And that voice changed everything. For Travis, this wasn't just another headline. He's used to attention for his athletic performance, but now the spotlight has shifted to his personal life in a way he's never experienced. For his fans, the story introduced a whole new layer of curiosity. Was everything really as she described? How much of this will Travis confirm, and how much will he deny? The mystery girl's decision to finally break her silence has set off a chain reaction. It's no longer just about who she is, it's about why she stayed quiet for so long, what pressures she faced, and what her story means for Travis moving forward. The internet is buzzing with theories, media outlets are racing to cover every angle, and fans are demanding answers. But the truth is, this might only be the beginning. Her words raised as many questions as they answered. Why now, after all this time? What role did Travis play in her silence? Were there things left unsaid, details too explosive to reveal just yet? The story feels less like a conclusion and more like the first chapter of something even bigger. And that's exactly why people can't look away. Because when silence is broken after months of speculation, the fallout is never simple. It changes the game, shifts the narrative, and sets the stage for what comes next. And in the case of Travis Hunter and the woman once known only as his mystery girl, the world is waiting to see how the next chapter unfolds. When the silence was finally broken, people thought the storm had passed. But what most didn't realize was that the real story was only just beginning. The mystery girl's first words may have shocked fans, but her follow-up went even deeper, pulling back the curtain on details that nobody ever imagined. This wasn't just about her personal struggle anymore, it was about Travis Hunter himself, his choices, and the hidden world that surrounded him. Her revelations started small, but each one grew heavier than the last. She spoke about private conversations that painted a very different picture from the polished image fans thought they knew. She claimed that behind the cameras and headlines, Travis often wrestled with pressures that went far beyond the football field. Expectations from coaches, media scrutiny, and even the weight of carrying a whole fan base on his shoulders. These were burdens that people never saw. And while the world was celebrating his every move, she says she witnessed moments of exhaustion, frustration, and self-doubt for the first time. The girl described what it was like to be next to him during those moments. Not in the spotlight, but in the shadows, when the noise died down and the reality of his life became clearer. She spoke about nights where he confided in her, where he admitted he wasn't sure how to balance the person he was with the image the world demanded. To the fans, Travis was unstoppable, uncheckable, a young athlete destined for greatness. But to her, he was also human, trying to figure out how to live under a microscope. This is where things took a dramatic turn. Because according to her, the reason she stayed silent for so long wasn't just personal choice or external advice, it was partly for him. She revealed that there were concerns about distractions, about narratives the media could twist, about anything that could jeopardize his momentum on the field. In her words, "Sometimes it felt like I had to disappear just so he could shine." That line alone sent fans into a frenzy. Did Travis knowingly let her carry that weight? Or was he too focused on his own journey to see what was happening? Her words didn't stop there. She began to hint at deeper tensions, moments where the line between public image and private truth started to blur. She described situations where decisions weren't theirs alone, but influenced by people around Travis, mentors, advisors, even organizations that had a say in how he was portrayed. Suddenly, the story wasn't just about a secret relationship. It was about control, image management, and the cost of rising stardom. Fans couldn't believe what they were hearing. Some felt sympathy, seeing her as someone forced to live in the shadows for reasons beyond her control. Others were furious, suggesting that this revealed a side of Travis they weren't ready to accept. Could the golden boy of college football really have played a role in keeping someone so close to him invisible? But perhaps the most shocking part of her statement was what she didn't say outright. Through her pauses, her careful choice of words, and the emotions between the lines, she seemed to suggest that there was even more beneath the surface. She spoke of secrets she couldn't yet share, experiences too heavy to put into words. And that uncertainty was enough to make the story feel unfinished, leaving people desperate to know what was being held back. The media reaction was immediate and overwhelming. Headlines ran with every quote, every subtle hint. Talk shows debated whether this was bravery or betrayal. Social platforms filled with endless commentary. Was she exposing the truth? Or was she rewriting the narrative to her advantage? Some fans defended Travis, claiming he was being dragged into unnecessary drama. Others pointed out that if even half of what she said was true, it changed everything about the way people saw him. Through all of this, one question echoed louder than the rest. How would Travis Hunter respond? So far, he has stayed quiet, letting the noise grow around him without a single public comment. Some see that as dignity, choosing not to feed the fire. Others believe it's a calculated move, waiting until the right moment to speak. But every day that passes without his response adds more fuel to the speculation. The ripple effect has gone beyond Travis and his mystery girl. Other players, analysts, and even people connected to his career have been dragged into the discussion. Everyone wants to know what's real, what's exaggerated, and what this means for his future. For a young star on the edge of even greater success, the timing of all this couldn't be more critical. A story like this has the power to shape not just his reputation, but also the opportunities waiting for him off the field. And yet, the most fascinating part of this saga is how it blurs the line between celebrity and humanity. Fans love to build idols, to put athletes on pedestals, to believe they're invincible. But what the mystery girl has revealed reminds us that even the brightest stars carry shadows. Fame magnifies everything: the victories, the mistakes, the secret sand in Travis's case. It has brought one woman's story crashing into the spotlight. Whether people believe every word or not, one truth remains undeniable: she has shifted the narrative. For months, she was nothing more than speculation. Now, she is the voice at the center of one of the most talked about stories in sports entertainment. And the silence that once defined her has been replaced by words that nobody can ignore. But the biggest question is still hanging in the air. What comes next? Will she reveal even more details that she held back the first time? Will Travis finally break his silence and set the record straight? Or will this story spiral further, dragging in new names, new claims, and new consequences? For now, the world waits. Fans refresh timelines, media outlets chase leads, and every cryptic post is dissected for meaning. One thing is certain: This story has reached a point where it's no longer about a mystery girl. It's about the reality behind fame, the cost of silence, and the power of speaking out when the world least expects it. When the story first broke, people thought the shock would eventually fade. But instead of dying down, the drama surrounding Travis Hunter and the mystery girl has only intensified. What started as whispers turned into headlines. What turned into revelations now feels like a wildfire spreading faster than anyone expected. And part 3 of this saga is where things begin to spiral. Because what she exposed next made people question not just Travis's personal life, but the entire system around him. In her earlier words, she spoke about the pressure, the hidden struggles, and the silence she carried for months. But now, she has gone further. She began pulling back the curtain on moments that suggest not everything in Travis Hunter's world was as polished as it appeared. She hinted at betrayals, secrets that were carefully covered up, and decisions that weren't just about football but about protecting reputations and careers. Fans were stunned because this wasn't just about a relationship anymore. This was about image, control, and the cost of being tied to one of the biggest names in college sports. She described times when she felt pushed aside in order to keep the focus on Travis's rising stardom. Moments where conversations behind closed doors made it clear that her presence was a problem for people who wanted to control the narrative. According to her, there were deliberate efforts to keep her hidden, not only to protect Travis's image as a young, marketable athlete, but to keep sponsors and programs from asking uncomfortable questions. She revealed how some of those close to Travis treated her as if she was disposable, someone who could be erased if it meant keeping things clean for the cameras. That revelation changed everything. Fans who once saw this as just gossip suddenly realized there might be larger forces at play. Was Travis complicit in all of this? Or was he just another player caught in a system that values image over authenticity? The girl's words painted a picture of an environment where truth wasn't just inconvenient, it was dangerous. And if even part of that is true, it means this story is bigger than just two people. The internet, as expected, went into overdrive. On one side, people defended her, saying she was finally brave enough to expose the manipulation behind the scenes. On the other side, critics accused her of exaggerating, of using Travis's name to build her own spotlight. But what nobody could deny was the impact. Clips of her statements went viral, hashtags trended, and media outlets began digging deeper into Travis's inner circle, looking for confirmation of her claims. As the story unfolded, one detail stood out: the suggestion of betrayal. She claimed there were moments where people close to Travis not only ignored her but actively worked against her, spreading false narratives and twisting facts to make her look irrelevant. If true, that means this wasn't just about silence. It was about deliberate erasure. For fans who adored Travis, that idea was almost too much to handle. How could someone with such a bright future be surrounded by so much hidden drama? But perhaps the most explosive part of her latest words was the implication that more secrets were still buried. She stopped short of naming names or giving every detail, but the way she spoke made it clear that she knows more than what has been revealed so far. That subtle promise of further exposure has kept the world hooked. It's not just what she's already said, it's what she might say next that has everyone on edge. Travis Hunter himself has remained silent, but his silence now feels heavier than ever. In the beginning, people could excuse it as dignity, as choosing not to feed rumors. But now, with so many claims being made directly about him and the people around him, the lack of response feels like a statement in itself. Is he waiting for the noise to die down? Or is he simply unprepared for the fallout of addressing these accusations? Either way, every day that passes without his voice makes the speculation louder. This has created a dangerous ripple effect. Sponsors are watching closely, media outlets are sharpening their angles, and every move Travis makes is being dissected for hidden meaning. Something as simple as a liked post or a brief comment has fans spinning theories about where his head is at. His career, once defined by highlight reels and electrifying plays, is now overshadowed by a narrative that refuses to go away. And then there's the girl herself. By breaking her silence, She has transformed from a background figure into a central character in Travis's story. Her voice carries weight now, and every new word she speaks sends shockwaves through the fanbase. Some see her as a hero, exposing a side of stardom that athletes rarely show. Others see her as a threat, someone who could derail Travis's future with just one more statement. Either way, she has become impossible to ignore. What makes this chapter so gripping is the sense that everything is teetering on the edge. Fans are left wondering what the next revelation will be. Will she finally name the people who tried to silence her? Will she reveal details that could change how Travis is perceived not just by fans, but by teams, organizations, and the NFL itself? Or will Travis finally step into the conversation and try to reclaim control of his story? The uncertainty has created a tension unlike anything seen before in his career. It's no longer just about football, it's about trust, reputation, and the fragile balance between public image and private truth. Every revelation has the power to either humanize him or damage him, to make fans more loyal or to push them away. That's the risk of living in the spotlight, and right now. The light on Travis Hunter has never been brighter or harsher, as this saga continues. One thing is clear, the story has evolved far beyond a simple rumor about a mystery girl. It has become a case study in fame, secrecy, and the high cost of silence. And the deeper it goes, the more people are realizing that this isn't just entertainment, it's a reminder of how fragile even the strongest-looking lives can be when secrets start to unravel. What happens next could define not only Travis's future, but hers as well. Because once the silence is broken, there's no going back. And if the next wave of revelations is as shocking as the last, the world of Travis Hunter may never look the same again. When the mystery girl's words first surfaced, people thought the story couldn't possibly get bigger. But the truth is, her revelations only lit the spark. What followed was a wildfire of attention that Travis Hunter could no longer outrun. The world stopped talking about his highlight plays and instead turned its focus to his silence, his choices, and the storm that now surrounded him. Part 4 is where the fallout truly begins. Because this is no longer just about whispers, it's about consequences. The first ripple came from the media. Once her statements were out, every outlet wanted a piece of the story. Sports networks, gossip blogs, talk shows, even national news began dissecting every line she said. Was it the truth? Was it exaggerated? The frenzy was so intense that Travis's on-field achievements suddenly felt like a side note. The game he loved, the game he worked his whole life to dominate, was now competing with a narrative he never wanted in the first place. For an athlete who thrives on focus and discipline, this shift was devastating. Then came the sponsors. Brands that once raced to be associated with Travis began to hesitate. Some quietly pressed pause on campaigns, others asked questions behind the scenes, waiting to see how this would unfold. The world of endorsements thrives on clean images, on stars who look untouchable. But with every unanswered accusation, with every cryptic comment the girl made, Travis's image became less certain. Fans might still cheer for him on the field, but sponsors live in the shadows of controversy, and this was becoming too loud to ignore. On social media, the reaction split into extremes. Supporters defended Travis fiercely, calling the girl an opportunist, someone trying to capitalize on his fame. They pointed to his track record, his work ethic, his focus, saying this was nothing more than a distraction designed to derail him. But others weren't so forgiving. They demanded answers, asked why Travis hadn't spoken, and wondered what kind of truth could possibly be hidden behind such deep silence. Hashtags trended daily, with thousands of voices clashing over who to believe and what this really meant. Through all of this, Travis himself remained silent. And while silence worked in the early days of this saga, now it was beginning to look like avoidance. The longer he stayed quiet, the more people assumed guilt. Some argued he was simply protecting his mental focus, choosing not to engage in drama. Others believed he was waiting for the right time to speak, perhaps through a controlled interview or a carefully worded statement. But every day, without his voice added weight to the mystery girl's words, turning her narrative into the dominant one. Behind closed doors, the pressure was mounting. Teams, advisors, and people invested in his future were undoubtedly concerned. A young athlete of his caliber carries not just personal dreams, but financial stakes, reputations, and the hopes of entire organizations. With his name being dragged into headlines that had nothing to do with football, the risk was clear. If he didn't get control of the story soon, the story would control him. Meanwhile, the girl herself continued to speak, sometimes directly, sometimes through subtle posts and interviews that left people reading between the lines. Each new detail she dropped reignited the fire. She hinted that the public had only heard the surface, that the real truth was even darker than anyone imagined. She stopped just short of revealing everything, and that strategy kept the world hooked. By withholding just enough, she ensured that her voice stayed relevant, that her story couldn't be dismissed. And every time she spoke, the attention circled back to Travis. Whether he wanted it or not, the impact on Travis's image became impossible to ignore. For fans, he was still the star they admired, but now he carried an aura of mystery that made people question his authenticity. Was the person they cheered for on Saturdays the same person being described in her words? Was he complicit in keeping her silent, or was he just another figure caught in a machine bigger than himself? These questions lingered in every comment section, in every debate, in every headline. As the chaos grew, analysts began to discuss the situation not just as gossip, but as a case study in fame and vulnerability. They pointed out how quickly a star can lose control of their own narrative, how silence can sometimes hurt more than words, and how athletes today are judged not only for what they do on the field, but for every corner of their personal lives. In Travis's case, the conversation had shifted permanently. His plays would still matter, but now they would always be weighed against the story unfolding around him. And that brings us to the heart of the fallout. This saga is no longer just about a mystery girl speaking out. It's about the power of words once they're released into the world. It's about how a single voice can shift the perception of an entire career. And most importantly, it's about how Travis Hunter chooses to respond, because his next move could define everything. If he speaks too soon, he risks fueling the fire. If he waits too long, the silence could crush him. It's a razor-thin balance, and the world is watching to see which path he takes. The girl's story may have begun in the shadows, but it has grown into a storm that surrounds Travis Hunter's future. Whether people see her as a truth-teller or a disruptor, she has changed the trajectory of his life. The fallout has already begun, and the ending of this saga has yet to be written. One thing is certain, nothing will ever go back to the way it was before she finally spoke, and that's why this story isn't just another internet scandal. It's a reminder that in the world of fame, silence is never permanent, secrets never stay hidden, and the truth, no matter how carefully managed, always finds its way to the surface. For Travis Hunter, the only question left is whether he will face it head-on, or let the silence speak louder than his own voice. If you've made it this far, you already know this story is just getting started. The silence has been broken, the drama is out in the open, and the fallout is happening in real time. But the biggest questions remain unanswered. Will Travis finally speak? Will even more shocking details come out? And what will this mean for his future both on and off the field? That's exactly why you don't want to miss what comes next. Stories like these evolve by the day, and the moment something new drops, you'll want to be the first to know. The best way to do that is simple: make sure you're subscribed to this channel with notifications turned on. That way, when the next chapter breaks, you'll be locked in right away. And let's be real, this isn't just a story about one athlete and one girl. This is about how fame, silence, and secrets collide in ways that change everything. So if you want the full breakdowns, the hidden angles, and the details others aren't covering, you're in the right place. Now, I want to hear from you. Do you believe the mystery girl story? Or do you think there's more to the picture that hasn't been revealed yet? Drop your thoughts in the comments, because I'll be reading through and featuring some of the most interesting takes in the next video. And if you enjoyed this breakdown, don't just stop here. Check out the other videos on this channel where we uncover the untold stories behind the biggest names in sports and entertainment. Trust me, you don't want to miss them. So hit that subscribe button, tap the bell, and I'll see you in the next one.